morning, everybody, and happy Monday. Hope everybody here had a great weekend. It's been kind of crazy what's going on with the pollen, so do excuse the voice this morning. It's still kind of beating me up a little bit. But that doesn't stop me from being productive, which is kind of what we're going to talk about today. So I thought we'd start today with a good Paul Myers quote, which is, "Productivity is never an accident. It's always a result of a commitment to excellence, intelligent planning, and focused effort," which I find very true. As far as it goes, when it comes to productivity, I think the most productive people and the most successful people I've met are not only consistent, but you know what? They put their all into it every time, right? And so when it comes to this industry, I get it. All of us are going to have bad days. All of us are going to need those breaks. But as long as we get up and we are consistent with our effort, then we'll be fine. I mean, it's the old saying as far as it goes with being brokers, right? 8 hours of work is going to be a customer, right? Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but in the future, 8 hours of work will just wind up being a customer. So as long as we keep putting in our 8 hours and keep putting that in, you know what? We should be successful. So let's jump into this. Happy Motivation Monday. Now, if you are new to Motivation Monday, this is kind of what we go through every week. So we're going to go through a tip of the week. We'll go through the sales shout out, so who our sales leaders are, where we're doing as a company, and of course in the end we're going to end with our sales technique, which today is increasing productivity. So our tip of the week, I mean, if you guys have not paid attention, there's all those crazy new short terms that are coming out. So first one is NatGen did launch at 12x2. So they launched at 12x2. They're actually going to be expanding more states coming up next month as well. So keep your eyes open on that one. I know HII did just launch theirs as well with their new Aspen product. And if you have not gone through yet and got yourself done with their quick quiz to be up and running with their short term, I'd highly recommend you do that. NatGen is not going to do it. It's just going to be appearing on your quoting link as well as list bill. So I know we all got those marketing blasts out there from NatGen. So the list bills are available on that NatGen quoting platform. Now let's take a look at what we're doing as a company and who our sales leaders are. So as far as it goes in our short term, again, we've been doing a lot of that pivot health lately, which is great. We've been doing a lot of NatGen. I've seen a little bit of variety going on too. Guys, I mean, we have United Healthcare coming on up with us, HII as well as IHC. So those have been pretty active for us. With our limited med, we have fallen in love there with that UHC Health Protector Guard. Accident plans, as always, we've been doing NatGen's Plan Enhance. So a really strong one. Adding that sickness hospitalization rider, I would say about 60% of the time. The critical illness as well, leading with that NatGen, and then of course the NatGen Dental PPO. I've seen a bit of that Colorado Bankers in that critical illness category. I'm hoping to get them to do a webinar for us coming on up. They have that great product with that whole open category for, as far as it goes, if somebody gets a terminal illness, they'll do the full payout. As well as it goes for our shouts out for short term. Good job, Allison, Mark, and Cody leading the pack for those short term medical sales. With our limited med, Daniel and Terrence, absolutely great job. And then Cody, you're on the board again, man. Not only for short term, but also for accident. They're with Edmund. So really leading the way in sales. So let's kind of jump into what it is to increase productivity. Now, everybody wants to say, hey, you know what, if I was just a little more productive, I would make more money, which is very true. But how can you be more productive? So we're going to go through 5 quick tips here on increasing productivity. And you're going to laugh at a few of them, but give it a minute to think. Give it a minute to actually set in. So the first one here is prioritization, right? And you can go through and take a look at the graph there on the left. And it's that old graph that we all grew up with, kind of, is it important or not important? Is it urgent or not urgent? That if it's not important and it's urgent, really delegate it to somebody else. Delegate it to your assistant. Now, when's the best time to get an assistant? It's actually going to be right before you can afford them. Why? Because now you're actually working for somebody, right? And we all jumped into this business because we didn't want to work for the man. But the nice thing is that you're going to have somebody who's going to hold you accountable. You're going to have that person who you're going to want to do the dials for. If it is important but not really urgent, plan to do it later. If it is not important, not urgent, just drop it. Just drop it. If it's important and urgent, do it right now. So as you go through, you're like, well, what is the important? What is the urgent? Well, first thing is, to me, it's always going to be the top of the sales funnel. What's the top of the sales funnel? That is where we do our dials, right? That's our new calls, our new prospecting. It's not always going to be calls, and we know that, but how do I handle it is I actually go through my calendar, and I have 2 to 3 hours a day blocked off for me to call. And I call those blinder hours, which means I put on my little horse blinders. All I do is prospect, 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 prospect. Don't get me wrong. If a sale comes in and someone calls back saying, I really want to buy now, okay, we will absolutely close that deal. But my focus is going to be making new calls, not going through and making coffee or maybe, making 10 calls and dialing up another report. I really want to focus. Uh, that is how I do it. The new top of the funnel, maybe it's joining a BNI group, going out to a local community event. That's where the money is. They have said, like I said before, 8 hours a client, 8 hours a client. Well, how are you going to do those 8 hours? You got to put them somewhere, right? Throughout the week. Also, divide your leads and conquer. Now, I'm a pretty organized person, and I like to divide my leads into a different 11-step system. You can find a video there at ahcpsales.com and look through my 11-step process. But I divide them into different categories. When is the time I called them? Right? I like to hit them different times throughout the day. I have different buckets or folders that I put them in. Great, I called them in the morning. I'm going to put them in an afternoon folder. Put a number next to it. How many times have I dialed them? Called them in the afternoon. I'm going to put them in a night folder. But you're going to make sure that I hit them as many times as I can in all different zones. As well as that, don't worry, I do send text messages. I do send emails. I really work hard on that, but I divide my leads into different categories. In different state categories, maybe one of the things I do is after I talk to them, I actually put them in separate folders for what our part of our conversation was. Like, needs to talk to husband, needs to talk to wife, needs to talk to spouse. Maybe it is somebody who just randomly went online and searched. Maybe it's somebody who's going to think about leaving their job and wants to be a 1099 like us. Okay, all those are great, but it helps me because I can get my mind in that mindset. And I find after about 3 calls, I'm very laser focused and I can handle any objections that they're going to do. So I do block off my calendar and I set myself goals. Now, I was talking with a few agents last week, really good friends of mine, and I'm like, do you guys remember back in the day doing tick sheets? And they kind of stare at me like, what do you mean? What's a tick sheet? I'm like, oh, okay, apparently I'm the tick sheet guy. So what I mean is I set myself hourly goals. So a minimum of 30 calls, maximum of 40, just so I don't completely burn myself out. And I write the 1 through 30 or 1 through 40. I used to have them printed out on a nice piece of paper. And what I would do is every time I make a call, I'd cross it off. If I actually talk to somebody, I would circle it. If I set an appointment, I would actually color it in. That's how I figured out what I was doing, right? So maybe one of the things is 10 o'clock was one of the greatest times to call, and I would contact so many people over and over and over. But at 1 o'clock, I may not talk to as many people, but I would set more appointments. I started noticing what my trends are and making sure maybe it's not just me, right? Like 10 o'clock, that's when my coffee kicks in. I am up, I am running. Or is it just at 1 o'clock people are a little bored at work and more willing to talk, right? So maybe you want to get rid of your call goal and actually do things that are going to make you money. Because, actions hopefully are going to have a reaction. But you want to set yourself maybe a minimum contact goal. Like, I don't care how many calls I make. I have people who I've talked to who have come from call centers when it comes to cable companies. They said, man, I can literally do 100 calls in an hour. Thoroughly impressive. If you're one of those people out there that can do that. If you can, set it a contact goal. Say, hey, I want to talk to at least 3 people, 5 people in this hour. So first thing is going to be prioritizing. And my prioritizing is you want to increase your productivity, block off your calendar, and make sure that you are doing what's the most important, which is prospecting, which all of us hate to do, it seems like. I like it, but I also liked going on first dates a long time ago. I'm one of those weird people. I like meeting new people. That's what I enjoy about the prospecting. Just change your mindset over and make sure that's the first thing you do. Okay, the second quick thing is automate. Automate everything that you can. If you don't have an automated health platform, start looking into them. Health Sherpa is a great one. Agent Cube's out there. Quoted's a great one. I also go through and I have scripts for my whole process. Yes, I've been doing my process for a very long time. I have it memorized like the back of my hand. I could do it in my sleep. I've been punched for trying to say, this is the next steps in the process. So many times I just explain it out, but I do the scripts. What happens if I have an off day? What happens if all of a sudden I have a little dog? My little dog's going to run right in front of me and I just get completely distracted. I want to know where I'm going because that little dog could have just cost me a couple $1,000 sale. I have scripts in my process. I keep them comfortable. They kind of give me the barriers and the boundaries of where I'm going. If you haven't even taken a look at an auto dialer, there's actually a lot of free ones out there online. I highly recommend taking a look at those as well. Auto dialers are great. My only downside is be really careful with them, because if you've ever been on the other side, not the biggest fan of it, because you're sitting there and they go, "Hi, is Dan there?" And you wait and there's a click, click, click until you actually get transferred to a live person. Horrible. Automatic text, there's a lot of software out there that will send the text for you. And also make sure that you have a sales process. Now, if you've been in the industry for 10 years, I know that you probably have a sales process. If you haven't, we have a lot of videos out there on sales processes. If you want a really good book, it's You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar. That's one of the best sales process books out there. It's actually one of the foundation building blocks. It goes through the 4 steps. He actually adds in a 5th step of the sales process, which is follow-up. Completely agree. Good old Sandler book there, but I'd recommend have a sales process. Automate it, including automating yourself. Give yourself that ability to kind of have a mental relaxation by having a script and knowing where you're going. Number 4 is utilize. So track how long your tasks are taking and know what to work on. Again, so it goes kind of back to prioritization. And work in 90-minute intervals. So, random thing. I actually am very fascinated by the adult mind. I have my master's in adult learning. This is kind of what I live for. And one of the things is they say we work best in 90-minute intervals. So if you're going to block off your calendar, maybe do it a little more than an hour and do it in 90-minute blocks. I have ADD. 90 minutes is a year and a half to me. But work in 90-minute intervals. So block them off after your 90-minute interval. Don't be afraid to take a break. Breaks are really important. They actually help relax your mind, and they go through and help you get your motivation back. Some people say if I take a break, I'll never get going. That's a little personal thing that you could work on, but you're going to be the most effective and the most efficient in 90-minute intervals. Use your tracking tools as well, kind of like what we hit before with the automate, but that's keeping your stuff organized. By automate, utilize means track what you're doing, right? And then also utilize your friends and family. You want to be successful, you want to be productive, actually use your friends and family and say, hey, can I run something by you? Can I try to sell you this? Maybe they already have insurance. They don't need it, right? But you want to hone your skill. You want to sharpen it, right? Just say, can I practice on you? I use my friends and my family. I actually, God, you guys are going to think I'm amazing on this one, right? When I go to parties, sometimes when I'm talking to people, they say, hey, what do you do? And I say, I work in health insurance. And we talk about it a little bit. I'm like, hey, can I ask you what a deductible is? And they go through and I'm like, well, here's, how I'd explain it. Does that make sense? I bring up those terms. You'd be shocked at how many clients have gotten out of that. But just funny when you find out what people, A, don't know. So that's going to help you realize how you're explaining things to people. Because if you've been doing this for a while, you'll information vomit on them. But find out where they are, and then also what you're saying. Does it make logical sense? Because if you're talking to that random stranger, they go, I don't get it. They really don't get it. So it's something that you can work on. Third one is stop. You want to increase your productivity, try taking a break. When you take a break, here's something that's going to be kind of random. Take a break and look at something green. Something naturally green, though, not something fake green. Don't have a lime green piece of paper. No, not that. Take a break and look at something green. If you have a plant in your office, I recommend they do. They actually help increase productivity. But have a plant. Take a minute to stare at it. If you're in a state that is not being killed by pollen right now, feel free to go take a walk outside. Don't get interrupted until you're ready as well. Okay, so put those blinders on, but when you do take it, you do your 90-minute interval and take a break, make sure to kind of relieve yourself when it's ready, right? When you're ready to go, relieve your eyes and take a look at those plants. Like I said, wear blinders when doing tasks and don't multitask. I love hearing this one from people. I'm a great multitasker. Technically, the human brain can't multitask. We cannot. What you do is you jump between tasks really quick. So if you're saying you're multitasking, you're doing 3 tasks at once, your brain is actually completely switching from task to task to task to task. And when you're doing that, you are losing those little segments, those little areas where your brain is actually getting up and running on each task. Try to, if you can, do only 1 task at a time. And I'll hear people saying, men can only do 1 task, women can multitask. Guys, it's not a gender thing. It's really not a gender thing. You will be more efficient when you put your blinders on and you work at 1 task at a time, because you will get up and running, and then you are going to automate that task to yourself, like doing dials, right? Going through. Or what I do is I do dials, I talk to my clients, I set appointments later in the day, and then I block off a time afterwards where I go through and I get all their quotes together. Unless it's one of those where it's a 1-call close, but if it's one of those where I need to go do research, they're taking some prescriptions that are a little harder to get through, or I want to make sure that they get a better coverage on those prescriptions than what they have now, I will block off those times. So I already have all the sites up and running, right? I've already automated all my sites, so I can just jump from thing to thing and be effective at it. Environment. So take your eyes off the screen. I kind of talked about that, right? Go for a walk. Buy a plant. Mirrors and lighting are important. And surround yourself with productive people and shared office space. Let's go through these. So make sure to take your eyes off the screen. If you're one of those people and we are dialing and we are dialing and we are dialing and we get focused and then you get that headache, take your eyes off the screen, right? It's actually the nerves in the back of your eyes. They're really, really tense and they're trying really hard. And green helps relax those really quick. And that's why I say, hey, go for a walk by a plant, right? Um, my office is glass. So I just turn to the right and there are palm trees outside and I just stare at the palm trees. Mirrors and lighting. Lighting is very important. Mirrors, hey, well, we all have the smile mirror, right? And you can laugh being like, I haven't used a smile mirror since I worked in a call center. Use a smile mirror, right? Make sure that you're sounding happy when you're on the phone. But the other thing is, too, it's going to give you a perspective of what you look like, right? So your shoulders are slumped, those kinds of things. Lighting, good lighting, really important. It's going to help you. If you sit there and you're in those neon lights and they just suck your soul out of you, don't be afraid to get one of those natural lights. Surround yourself with productive people. One of the things I've done is I've actually used shared office spaces. So I've gone into shared office spaces where everybody has different things. They have little glass offices, and I've gone down and I've rented them for a day, for about 8 hours, sat there, and I have done a ton of dials. I'm like, what is the thing that I just drag my feet on more than anything? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, dialing. So when I rented a shared office space, locked myself in a little glass office, and I dialed, and I dialed, and I dialed, and I took my break, and I went through and I made sure that I started looking up quotes for people, closed a few clients. It was some of my most productive time. I'd recommend looking into them. They have them all throughout the US, just shared office spaces. So what all those actually go up to is don't be afraid to pause. You want to be effective. You want to be efficient. You're going to be running at full steam throughout the day, but your full steam can't stay that way. Make sure to go through and take a pause after you prioritize, you automate, you utilize, you stop, and you change the environment. Take a pause, reset yourself, and go back and get yourself up and going. If you have any questions, you want a copy of this, please let me know. You can always reach out. You can say, hey, Dan. My email address is training@ahcpsales.com. Those few carriers that I talked about today, if you want to get those contracts, you can always call our agency services number at 877-228-8773. These are recorded. They are put on our YouTube channel, which if you don't follow it, I would recommend it. They're put on our YouTube channel usually a day or two later, and they will be put into the training section at ahcpsales.com. Have a great week, everybody, and I will see you next Monday.